community engagement for helping us out to bring Chaim Shapiro back to campus. He has been now a fixture of our LinkedIn expertise here at the college. So we're very happy to have him back. And thank you, Julia, for helping us coordinate and bringing Chaim back to the campus.
Of course.
We will now officially get started. I really just want to thank, and I'm really excited to introduce you to Chaim Shapiro, who is going to be showing you many different things with LinkedIn today. And I will say again, please ask questions. This is a live demo, so Chaim will be able to show you things right there within LinkedIn. So without any further ado, I'm going to move this to Chaim. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me back. When I was here in May last year, I said hopefully we could do it in person this year. Didn't quite work out for this year. Hopefully next year I'll be back in person on campus. But it's definitely great to be back, and it's great to have this ability to do this via this format. A lot of things have changed on LinkedIn, significant changes since the last time I was here. And we're going to go through a lot of those. One of the things that the Career Development Center asked me to do is really focus on strategies for utilizing LinkedIn for the job search in the COVID climate. When COVID is such a major part of our lives. So we're going to start off with some basic things about the profile, especially things that have been updated in the new user interface. And after that, we're going to start talking about some advanced features on LinkedIn that you can actually utilize to engage people, to practice interviewing, create resumes and other things, skills badges, in order to make sure you're using it at a higher level. So without any further ado, I want to get started, but I do want to reiterate the point that this is a live demo. And the reason I do it as a live demo is to make sure that we can answer the questions that students have. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I try to pause every 4, 5, 6 minutes in order to answer those questions. That's really the purpose of it. And to me, a great session is when we'll have 10, 15, 20, 25 questions where I'm able to address those, as opposed to me just giving a presentation. So not only feel free, please, you're definitely helping the session when you're actually asking those questions, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So you might want to see up here at the top, this is very different than what it would look like in the last time I was here. Last time I was here, these icons were different. The background was in black. And LinkedIn has tried to make what they believe is more user-friendly. One of the challenges, a lot of people think that it looks a lot more like Facebook, and it does. When you scroll down quite a bit, a lot of times you look at it and you think this does look a lot like Facebook, but they're trying to make it more user-friendly. There are some other things that they've added to it, I think, make the functionality of it a lot more valuable than it was even in the past, and we're going to talk about some of those. So what I want to go into is the edit profile mode, and the place to start for that is the little me button up over here. Click on that, then click on view profile, and this is going to take you into the edit mode of your profile. Now, the 3 things I want to point out here are the 3 most important parts of your LinkedIn profile. Those are your photo, your name, and your LinkedIn headline. The way to access these is by pushing this little button right over here. I'll get to the photo in a minute. Name, you have the ability to add a former name. If you have a maiden name or something like that, you can add that. Pronouns are coming. LinkedIn announced those are going to be coming within the next couple of weeks to months. So you should be able to add those very, very soon. We talked about this last time, but I think this is the most important real estate currently on LinkedIn, because if I see nothing besides your name and your photo, what makes me want to engage with you? And this LinkedIn headline shouldn't just be student at purchase. Now that's important, but it doesn't sell you. What can you bring to the table that makes you the kind of person somebody who'd be looking to hire you would be interested in? Those are the kinds of things you want to put on there. And you see here, I highlight the different things that I do. So if you say that you're aspiring accounting student with expertise in state and local tax, expertise in GAAP standards, things like that would be the kind of things you want to add there. Okay. I want to show you one of the changes here that they added to the pictures. And I'll pause for a couple of questions. You want to have a professional headshot photo. Now you see here that I'm wearing a suit, and the reason I do that is because in the professional circles in which I usually walk, people would generally expect that to be what you would be wearing when you're going to a networking event with senior administrators. This could be very different if you're in theater and dance, or if you're working, for example, for a job at Google. But I advise people generally is to include a picture of themselves wearing the kind of clothes they would wear if you're going to a networking event in your field where you would expect to see some of the senior folks. Now, one of the changes here that LinkedIn added recently is you can actually take a photo on your computer itself. So let's try that. I'll click on my picture, and then I click on add photo, and I click on use camera, and you're going to see me on here not wearing a suit in a minute. How you guys doing? I can actually take this photo. Now, why don't I want to take this photo? First of all, my hair is not where it should be. There's a little bit of a mess, and I don't have a good background, and I'm not wearing the appropriate clothes. But just so you know, that it is available for you there, and if you set it up appropriately, it can be a great way to take that photo and have a photo up there with a white background and dress in the appropriate clothes. Just so you know, it's actually hot right now are sort of off-centered photos with dark backgrounds, are what people tend to be featuring on their accounts now. You definitely don't need to have it that way, but it's a good idea to have it that way. So these three things are what I call the LinkedIn Triumvirate: your name, your picture, and really focus on a LinkedIn headline and coming up with something that really sells you, because that's really very, very important. So I'll pause. Do you have any questions about that part of it?
I don't see any questions in the chat right now.
Okay, great. Next thing you also want to do is make sure to get your public profile URL. Click over here, and that's going to take you to another page where you're able to personalize this. Now, if you haven't changed it, this will be linkedin.com/in, a bunch of the letters of your name, some dashes, and a bunch of numbers and letters. You want to change this to as close as your name as you can get. So mine, actually, Chaim Shapiro is not that popular of a name, so I was able to get it. If I couldn't, I'd do Chaim-Shapiro. I do Chaim Shapiro MED, which is my master's in education. Try to get as close as you can. And once you have that, when you save it, that's going to become your LinkedIn URL. And you can include that in the signature line on your emails, which is a great idea, because if people are interested in following up with you after you send them an email, they're able to do so. If they're not interested, no harm, no foul. So I'm just going to click out of that, and that's the little button right over here. Allows you to edit that. You don't want to change it often. You want to change it once and stick with what you have. So I'm going to cancel out of this and go back to the main profile page over here. One of the more frequent questions I get is LinkedIn, so just about a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago, launched what's called an open to work frame that you can put on your profile photo. Have you guys seen that? Raise your hand if you've seen that. Got any hands? Or maybe not. Okay, but just to show you how this works. If you do open to, you could actually put that you're open to particular kinds of jobs. I definitely recommend that you set this up and put the kinds of jobs that you are looking for, job locations. And if you scroll down here, it'll also give you the opportunity to send when you're looking, and full-time, part-time, contract, whatnot. So this is important to have, because right now recruiters who are using LinkedIn Recruiter can see this. I'm not looking for a job, but if somebody were to offer me a job and say, we'll offer you $1 million a year to come work for us, I would definitely consider that, but I don't want to promote it so publicly because I'm not really actively looking. Now look what happens if I change this. If I go in here and I change this to all LinkedIn members, look what's going to happen over here. Click save, and it added this open to work frame to my actual profile photo. There was some controversy when this first came out, because in the past, there are people who argued you don't want to put a frame like that because maybe people view it negatively. I haven't seen that negative view to it. So if you're open to work, you can definitely set that. Again, the way to really do it is just to make sure that you put in those jobs and set the profile so that it's available to all people. Now I'm going to click out of this and go to recruiters only, and that's going to take it off. I would like to see LinkedIn change this so that I could add it if I wanted to, if I'm open to recruiters, or not have it if I'm open to everybody. They don't really give you that option, which I think they should, but it's definitely better than it was. Now, something very exciting coming to LinkedIn. I'm actually very excited about this because LinkedIn announced this about 2 weeks ago, and it should be available, be rolling out in the next 3 or 4 weeks. They have the ability for you to make what's called a cover story, which will be a video that when somebody is looking at your LinkedIn profile, will be playing in the background in your photo. They claim it's like a Harry Potter thing. I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I think that makes sense. My daughter said that made sense to her. So it'll be playing without sound in the background. And this is going to be your opportunity to give your LinkedIn elevator pitch to people with your voice. Now, this hasn't been released yet. I'm not quite sure how people are going to use this. To me, you want to be wearing the same clothes you'd be wearing in the actual photo. So you're representing yourself to the same exact audience in the same way you're representing yourself. And it's going to be interesting to see what people do to draw attention to themselves, because it's going to be playing without sound. So I'm hoping people don't do the TikTok thing where they're flipping their fingers around and dancing to get people to notice it. But I do think it's going to be a great, great way for people to be able to present themselves and tell people what they need to know about you. And to me, that's really what it's all about, because if somebody clicks on it and sees that, then you have the opportunity to present who you actually are. And one more thing I want to show you before we actually get into some questions. I see a couple questions coming up, and that's a new name pronunciation tool. So you see here, this name, Chaim, is not an easy name to pronounce. So if I click on this, let's listen.
Chaim.
That's my own voice pronouncing my name. You actually have 10 seconds to be able to record that. Unfortunately, you can only record it on the mobile app currently. My advice is to only use your name. There are some people here that are saying things like, contact me because I can sell you the best widgets or whatever it is. To me, that's not the place for it. Your cover story is the place for that. This is really for people to assist people in pronouncing names that people aren't really used to pronouncing, like Chaim. So I think I saw a couple questions come in, and Jessica, if you'd like to show me or read the questions.
Sure. So the question is, it's related to the new feature. So they asked, is it like social media stories? Does it play when you look at the photo, or do you have to click on the profile picture to watch it?
That's a great question. So from what LinkedIn said, it's going to be playing in the background if somebody's looking at your profile from the outside. So I'm looking at Wendy's profile, for example. If I logged in, or anybody, for example, it will be playing here automatically without sound. If I click on it, potentially I can get sound. Now, whether that's how they actually launch it or not, it's hard to say, but that's what they're claiming is going to be happening, which is why I'm a little bit concerned about people doing dancing and signs and whatnot, and trying to call attention to what they're doing, because it might not be easy to get people to click on the sound.
And then the next question about is the pronunciation option only available on LinkedIn?
No,
Premium?
pronunciation, everything I'm showing you today is available on the free side. The pronunciation tool is available, but you need to log in on one of the mobile apps, either on your iPad or on your iPhone or your Android device, and then you're able to record it. You can't record it actually currently on the computer, on the desktop system, but it should be available to everybody, and you should be able to add it, and you should be able to have those 10 seconds to be able to pronounce your name. Other questions?
Nope, that's it for now. Thanks.
Okay, great. So one of the other things I want to show you here under contact information, this is kind of hard to get to. If you click on contact information over here, it gives you the opportunity to include more information. And a question I get from SUNY students in the past, where do I put my professional portfolio on my account so that people can actually see it? So you see here, my personal website, and I have a little description here. So let's say if I click add website, I can go down here and click portfolio, put the URL in there, and then people click on my profile will be able to see the URL to my particular website or your particular portfolio. My advice, and this is one of my hacks here, is to choose the word other, even if you're doing your art portfolio here. You can put in art portfolio in the description, but it gives you the opportunity to put an actual description only if you choose the other button. So I would say, why not choose the other button, let people know exactly where you're sending them. Do I know if it's an art portfolio or it's a portfolio of some other work? So this gives you an opportunity to give that description. So I think it is very, very important to add that. You definitely can use the portfolio one, but I think I'll use the other one just because it gives you more of an opportunity to include those things. A couple other things you include here: phone number if you want. There's always debate whether you want to include this because you don't want people calling you, but I get a bunch of spam messages anyway all day, so I'd rather have that than not have that. Okay, any questions about the contact information or about setting up your website?
No questions in the chat right now.
Okay, great. So we're going to move down here. So the about section is something they also changed. Here, you really want to put more information. This is an opportunity for more of a narrative that you're able to put in your LinkedIn headline over here. You can put more information. And this used to actually have rich media content, which they've taken out. You see here, I have this set up so it's optimized to show up above the fold here. What I'd say is, someone got mad at me when I said this once, that nobody likes see more. What I meant was that nobody clicks the see more button to see more. But I had somebody at one of my sessions named Seymour got really upset at me. But that's why I have this set up this way so it doesn't cut things off. but I have more information here. This is highly, highly searchable. So I put more information here. So if people are very interested in me, they can see it, number one. And number two is because if people are doing searches, they're going to find that information. But one of the great, great changes to LinkedIn, I think, is really going to be very beneficial for people who have portfolios and different work they've done in videos, is the featured section. So the featured section used to be rich media content at the bottom of your about section. LinkedIn has now pulled this out and made it into a separate section that you can highlight. So as a person who likes to claim that he's very good at giving LinkedIn webinars and workshops, as opposed to just saying that, I actually have a video of one of my LinkedIn workshops and webinars posted right there. People who are interested can click on that and see it right away. And that sells me better than I could ever sell myself. Here's something else that I did. So if you want to put your portfolio up here, you could actually, just to show you here, you could add posts, articles, but links and media are probably the ones you're most going to focus on. And put things in here and order them the way that you want to, that people see it. Don't assume anybody is going to be clicking down over here to see this other stuff. Chances are the people are going to see the first one or two, maybe the third, because it gets cut off. So you want your best stuff leading off when it comes to these things. This is a great new feature. LinkedIn is actually talking about adding what's called the creator mode, which is going to move this up even higher on your profile. I think if you don't have the content for this currently, this is the time to start getting that content, because it's become more and more important as the creator mode becomes more and more popular. Questions?
Yep, there's one question. Yeah. It says, would you be able to share an Instagram account in the website section or in this section?
So Instagram, probably in the website. You can add the link to it and see if it hooks up. I don't believe if you add the link, it's going to actually show the profile. I want to show it to a particular post and see if it works. I haven't tried that. So what you would do is click the plus link and add the link, and then see what preview it gives you over here to see if it actually works.
Thank you.
Other questions?
That's what's it. That's in the chat right now.
Okay, we're going to keep working our way down here. So for your education section, I just touched on this. I touched on this last time. Make sure to sync it with Purchase College. And the way to do that is, so this is actually my work experience, sorry. The way to do with your work experience is make sure to sync it with your actual job. You see the little logo here that says Truro College? Look what happens if I erase the E. That logo just went away. Very, very important to make sure to sync it with the one that's currently there with your current employer, because that way when people do a search for your company, you will show up. Plus it has a nice little logo on the side. In addition to this, if you want, and I advise this is right off of my resume. I just included my bullets right off of my resume right down here as well. The premier preferred setting here is have this off. Don't share with your network. If you do share with your network, you're going to get messages that you made a small change and people are going to think you changed jobs, and it's very annoying. So definitely you want to update that and make sure to sync it. The same thing is actually true with your education section, which is next here. You want to make sure that you include your education. Make sure to sync it to your college or it's not going to fill it out. You see here that when I do that, it erases the logo, and I want to keep that logo. I'm just going to X out of this. Another thing that that people always ask me, especially if they've gone to multiple institutions, anybody here NCAA basketball fan? So you might have seen my Loyola Ramblers did okay. They went to the Sweet 16 in the tournament. And what I actually did when they were actually in the tournament is I moved this up. Let's try that again. I moved this up over here. So Loyola was first, and that changed it over here as well, because people were talking about Loyola was in the news. So that made it a lot easier to focus on that. So you can always change that. But for all of you guys, obviously, SUNY Purchase will be the first one that you want to have there. But if there's something else that comes up, you can definitely include that as well. Now, the next thing we were talking about are skills and endorsements. And we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive on this because I think this is very, very important. You want to make sure you're focusing this on the skills that are relevant to people who will be searching for whatever it is you have to offer. Now, you see here at the top, I have 3 skills. You can only pin 3 skills at the top. Again, I like to sell myself as a LinkedIn person. I am humbled to be endorsed by Lindsay Pollock, who is an expert in the field. But she only pinned 3 at the top. And just to show you here, if I click on this little pencil over here, I cannot get or add another one until I erase one. See, it says that you can only have top 3. So I'd have to remove one, then add social media, and then that will allow me to do it and click save, and that would change it on there. You can only pin 3, choose your best 3, and you can reorder those 3 as well. So if you wanted to, for example, say, well, social media is more important, just flip that around and that'll change that for you. And because of resume widening is the one I want up there, I do include that up there. Now you can add skills whenever you want, up to 50, clicking on this and start typing some stuff. With cinematography, for example, you can start adding the skills and add it to your profile simply by clicking the add button. If you put something up there by accident, just click it out and it'll get rid of it. Now, one of the most common questions I get from students is, well, how do I know what to put here? Like, I have a bunch of great skills. How do I know what skills are of value to people in my profession? And the answer to that is there's a way to find out. So I'm going to scroll up here to the top and to the search tab. We're going to talk more about this later. But you see here, I did a search for Lincoln Center. And if I go to the Lincoln Center right up over here, this is the Lincoln Center's employee or company page. If I go to the word people here, click on people, this is going to give me some insights about their current employees. So let's take a look at this. If I click the next button twice, so you're clicking that twice, it shows me what people working at Lincoln Center are skilled at. So I can see here, Microsoft Office is too general, social media, event planning, performing arts, theater, event management. So if you have these skills, leadership, these are the kinds of skills you might want to be including in your profile if you actually have these skills, because obviously these are skills that people who are currently working there have. I'm going to show you one other great little trick here. And if I go back and I do this with Lincoln Center, look what happens down over here where they studied. And let's take a look at this. So I click here. These are alumni from your college who are working at Lincoln Center. These are potentially great engagement opportunities for you. We're going to talk a lot more about how to engage people and how to find people to engage and what to do. But for example, if I'm looking for a job there, Jennifer Walker might be one of the people that I want to engage. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to engage her a little bit later. But just to show you, if you click on this, it's not going to say, if you click on her profile over here, it doesn't save it under search. So I'm going to put her name in up over here so we can go back to it a little bit more easily later so we don't lose it. That way it's going to save in my search, and we can go back to her and we'll talk about some of the engagement strategies you want to do a little bit later. But this is a great way to find it out. And you don't want to keep it just to that. You can do, the Kennedy Center, for example, and see if the skills are any different. And I don't necessarily have to go to the Kennedy Center, but you can definitely do that for anything. And if you're in another field, I spelled Kennedy wrong. If you're in another field, you could definitely do it. Accounting, you can look at the major accounting, anything like that. You can go on there and see. Usually my best idea is, unless you have a specific target that I really want to work at Lincoln Center, try to triangulate around 3, 4, 5 different places and see what skills are of most value, especially around your area, because that will give you a much better idea of what skills are of value. And again, you don't want to put skills just because they're skills. You want to put skills because you actually have those skills. Okay. And the last thing I want to show you about the profile before I get into some advanced features is to make sure that you have actual recommendations on your profile. You see down over here, I have people who wrote recommendations about my work, and those are embedded on my profile so people can actually see them. I think this is very important because it gives people the opportunity to give a narrative about you. Couple questions I get: nobody can put this on here without your permission. So you see I have a pending recommendation. The reason why is somebody tried to troll me. Perfect Liars for Free was trying to get me to put that I'm a perfect gentleman on my profile. So I added that. People would laugh at me. Now you see what I can do here. I could ask him to revise it, which is pretty worthless because he's trying to troll me, or I could dismiss it. He cannot post that on my profile. If I ask for revisions and he doesn't revise it, I cannot post the changes. So it's up to that person, and you get to choose what to feature this on your profile. So if you don't actually currently have a recommendation, you want to go to Add Profile section. I believe it's under Accomplishments. We'll give you the opportunity to add one. This actually not under Accomplishments. It's actually under Additional Information. There we go. Request a recommendation, and then you can fill in the name of the person. You need to be connected to this person on LinkedIn, and we'll use Wendy as the example there. And want to get those. I usually tell people try to get to. What's that?
I said, I'm happy to do it for you, Karen.
Oh, good. So I'll send you one later.
Okay.
But what I was going to say that is that you want to try to get between 3 and 5 recommendations. Usually you don't want your roommate. You want somebody, that would be somebody you work with, somebody, a professor, and that usually gets you a little bit higher up in the search rankings. Okay. Now that's the quick version of how to maximize your profile. Because I really want to get into some of the advanced features. So I want to see if there are any questions about the profile before I move into the second section of the session.
Hi, Chaim. So there is a question. So it says, they said, I started forming my LinkedIn page and I noticed there was a section where I could upload my completed resume. But when I exited and came back, for some reason it kept disappearing. Would you know why that is?
That's actually one of the next things I was about to go to, actually,
Okay.
because there's two places you can actually do it, and I think you're talking about the second one. Some people upload their resume under the featured section. You see here, I have my resume uploaded here. I just use this as an example, but this gives people the opportunity to see this and potentially download it. But I'm getting very few clicks off of that. I'm thinking what you're meaning by that is what's in the new job section up over here. And if you go to Resume Builder, actually, you know what? Let's not go to Resume Builder yet. If we go to Application Settings, it should be, there we go. That's where your resume should be currently. And you have the current one up there or upload a new one. So that's where it goes. And we use the Easy Apply button for jobs. That's where it's going to go as well. Make sense?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Danny, if I didn't answer the question, just let us know in the chat.
Yeah, okay, great. Because, okay, and before we get to that, actually, I want to show you one more thing, because people ask me about jobs in general, is how to look for jobs on the system, and we'll see what's currently open. So you see here, I did a little, you type in the name of the job here, and you see I've done the search before I came in here. So I do visual arts in the New York City area. Now, a couple of things here I want to show you. Just take a look at this one. It wants me to send this person an email saying, which I have to pay for in order to contact him, and because he's the person who posted the job. I don't advise doing that. I would copy his name down and send them a connection request. And you can do that by just putting the name in over here and going to his actual profile. If we find it, there we go. And now if I send him an actual personalized connection request, I've saved the money on having to send him that in-mail or getting a premium account. You don't need to get that premium account in order to do that. Let's go back to those jobs over there, because there's a couple of things I want to show you here. First of all, you can set up a job alert. So whatever it is you're looking for in the place you're looking for it, set up those job alerts and have the jobs come on a regular basis so you don't have to look for them. I also advise students to set up job alerts on Google's job board, which is also a great way to do it. Plus, if you see over here, you get to see job recommendations. I tell people to put that on. They're not always on target, but you know what? It doesn't hurt to have them and take a look at them. In worst case scenario, you can reject them. Now, let's just go down here a little bit if the X button works, because I want to see one of these that actually has some. Here we go. Let's say I'm interested in working at Yale, which is, well, let's do this one. It's in Brooklyn, so it's a little bit closer. You see here, it tells me that I have 8 connections who work here at this particular place. This is very valuable information, because these are people I'm currently connected to who are working at this company. That means I can go in here and say, oh, I know Michael. Michael, you know what? I'm applying for a job in New York City Health. Can you make an introduction to me or tell me about the process? Even if you don't know these people because you connected them for other reasons, we're going to talk about some more engagement strategies. Very, very important way to turn cold leads into warm leads by doing that. And you see here, company alumni for Turo. You would also potentially see, and let's see if there's any of them here for UC Riverside. Probably not in New York, but you would see, oh, there we go. One alum works here. You could also reach out to an alum from your institution that works at that place and get that information. So I think it's important because it allows you to actually not only see the jobs and see who posted the jobs and reach out to the person who posted the jobs. It also allows you to turn those cold leads into warm leads by actually engaging people that you know for different reasons in different places. Does that make sense? Any questions?
There are none in the chat right now.
Okay, great. So this is the fun part that I was waiting to do, because some brand new tools here under the jobs tab that I want to show you guys that I think are very, very exciting, and in some ways potentially revolutionary for what's going to be going on here on LinkedIn. So you see here under the jobs tab, I click the more button. I have an interview prep tool. I am very, very excited about this, because one of the questions I get from students all the time is, well, I can't go in for a personal interview. They're doing a video interview. How do I prepare for that? And here's your answer. This gives you the opportunity to actually practice answering those questions for either online interviews you're doing via Zoom, or whether you're actually doing just going to do a fully video interview, which means there's not a live person there. So you see here, it gives you a couple of choices for questions that you can answer. One of the great things about this is you could answer the question, but you don't have to. So if you want to practice something else and just see what it looks like, you could just answer the question without actually giving the actual answer to what they're actually asking you and practice it. So just to show you a couple things here, here's an answer I gave to a question before, and let's take a look at this. Scroll down over here. Look what information it gives me. How fast I'm speaking, pitch variation, and how many filler words I used. And advice tip is to skip the filler words. So what I'm going to do now is actually create a video with you guys and show you how I do everything wrong. Because while this is a valuable thing, it doesn't do what the full artificial intelligence reading systems do. Artificial intelligence systems currently have what are called micro impressions, where they're able to tell if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're telling the truth, whether you moved inappropriately, whether you actually answered the question that was asked, and it doesn't give you that kind of stuff. Let's try a practice just to show what this looks like. And you're going to see my face here again in a minute. Record a video, and it's going to give me, as soon as I set it up here, should give me a countdown timer, and I'm going to do everything wrong here. So I'm supposed to be telling you about what my weaknesses are, but you see that I'm moving my head to side. I'm moving the cameras in ways that I really shouldn't move it. I'm talking really fast when I shouldn't be talking so fast. And I'm slowing down and talking much more slowly than you ever should talk on an interview. Stammering to see what happens, and talking and saying whether it picks up those kinds of things or not. Again, moving around. You also see the background is not quite what you would like, not at all what you'd like it to be. You're actually doing this for an actual interview. So these are all things. Let's see, again, done intentionally, if it picks these things up and gives me an assessment of those things right now. So let's click on this and save video answer, uploading it. And when I checked this earlier today, it's processing it, and it processed it very quickly. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, and if it does, then we'll have to see. Last time I did this, it actually did it pretty much right away. There we go. So let's see what it's telling me about it here. It's not working. 42 seconds. For some reason, the system's not working. But here, let's just show you here. I can request feedback, which is very important, because now I can send this to my friendly neighborhood career services professional and say, oops, Wendy, can you give me some feedback on how I did in this video interview? And it'll actually send her a copy of that video. And so you personalize this and send them a copy of the video. Now, it didn't do it for some reason. I don't know why it didn't show me the feedback, but the feedback usually comes quickly, and it's usually very similar to the kind of feedback. Let's try this one more time just to see if it works. Yeah, it's being stubborn. It'd be the same kind of feedback you got over here, because you'll see here on my answers in the first answer that it does catch those ums and the speed. You see that slow down, sped up, monotone, those kinds of things. And look at this. If you say, I didn't say well, yeah, you did. How do you say it? I'm not sure. How do you say it? It gives you that really specific fast, and you also see that I'm not answering the question. So I think this is a very valuable tool. Those things. Let me see if I can actually stop this. It's a very valuable tool going forward, because I think as time goes on, more and more places are going to be using video interviewing as a primary way. Again, LinkedIn is not where it needs to be with this yet. I want there to be micro impressions where it tells me whether it thinks I'm being honest, whether it thinks my background is good, whether I'm actually answering the question. Doesn't do that yet, but this is still much better than anything you can get for free out there, and it gives you a basic assessment pretty quickly. I think I saw a question come in.
It was just the question of is the feedback provided in the practice video available with the regular LinkedIn? And yes, right, because everything you're showing today.
Everything I'm going to be showing, yeah, that's a great question. Everything that I show in these demonstrations is available on the free side of LinkedIn. Again, the way to get there, and they actually had, this has actually been available for about a year, but they had it hidden in a different site. Just click on jobs, more, interview prep, and that'll give you the opportunity to test those. Now, you're not gonna get the sample answers, because that's a little bit, more advanced and whatnot, but that's something you have to pay for. But it gives you the opportunity to practice, and it definitely gives you the opportunity to send it to somebody to make an assessment and evaluation for you. Other questions about that? Now I'm gonna move to the resume.
All I see right now.
Okay, great. We're gonna move to the resume creator, which is another thing that came in here under the more button. So you see here, LinkedIn actually has a resume builder. Now, these are ones I've done. You see, I was working on one earlier today. If I click create from profile, what LinkedIn actually does, and you need to put in the name of a title of a position. I'm just going to choose career coach and apply. What it actually does is it creates a potential model version of a resume here. Now, let's look at this. If I click on this and I click preview, You'll see here, this is 4 pages, which is obviously way, way, way too much for a resume. But what I can do here is go down and change things. So remember I talked about how this was optimized specifically for LinkedIn? Well, I don't want that there. Let's get rid of that stuff. And then I click save and that'll actually change it. Plus, a lot of times on your LinkedIn profile, you'll include jobs from a long, long time ago, which I have up from several lifetimes ago. This is also stuff that I would just delete and take out of this because I really don't need this here. And at the end, when you get it to the place that you want it to be, all you need to do is click the more button, and then you could download it as a PDF that you'll be able to send. Now, one of the common questions I get is, why would somebody do this, right? Why am I setting this up this way as opposed to simply, creating my resume? And the answer is there are a lot of people nowadays who make more changes on their LinkedIn profile than they actually do on their resume, because LinkedIn has become the primary means by which they're promoting themselves. This just makes it a little bit easier for them to make sure that they are able to put that into a PDF form and send it out to people who want it pretty quickly. Does that make sense? Questions about that?
Doesn't look like there are questions right now.
Okay, great. So the last thing I want to get to when it comes to this jobs tab is what are called skills badges. Now, skill badges and skill assessments are a little bit controversial in the field. LinkedIn claims that you're 20 or 30% more likely to be hired if you have a skill badge on your profile for something. So if we click on skills assessments, you'll see here, this will take me into the kinds of skills assessments you can do. And I'm not the biggest believer in skill badges, but from my mind, it doesn't hurt. And there's no real challenge to actually taking it. So you see here, I've taken 3 of them. You need to be in the top 30% of responses in terms of how you do the multiple choice questions in order to get the actual badge on your account. So you'll see here that I took 3 and I have 1 retake. You only take it twice. Microsoft Outlook, you see here, I did pretty good actually, but I was a little bit behind. So I did better than 63%. I need to up that by 7% in my next one to get the skill badge on my actual profile. And just going to move back here. Those are the ones to retake. One of the questions that I often get about this is, how do I prepare for this? Because you don't want to just take it and just take it. You want to prepare for it and do well. You click on the Learn More button over here. And this is something which is not at all intuitive. Click on the Learn More button. That's going to take me to a LinkedIn help page. This shows me the full list of available skills assessments. Click on that. And let's say I choose design skills, and let's just choose Photoshop. It's going to give me, come on now, there we go, some of the things that are covered in the questions, so I can study for those in advance. But the only way to get to this really is to make sure that you actually choose that Learn button up there at the top. It also gives you some sample questions. Now, one of the things you can actually do in the actual thing itself is take a practice exam, which I don't particularly like. I'll show you why in a second. Let's see if we can just get back to the regular LinkedIn page here. All right, let's go back the other way. Okay, so we're going to go back into skill assessment. And let's say I wanted to practice Microsoft PowerPoint. So this gives me a practice session. Now, 2 questions, they won't affect your score. Click the next button. Okay, I don't really care which of these are. I'm just going to choose things for the sake of choosing them. And you'll see here, finish practice. It gave me the opportunity to practice. Now, what's the obvious problem with this? Anybody? It doesn't tell me if I got them right, which, would be very valuable. It just showed me what the actual practice looks like when you actually take the test. I'd like to see them tell me, yeah, you got these answers right, you got them wrong, something like that. But still, I think it's better because it gives you an opportunity to at least see what the format is before you do it. You can only retake each one time. And one of the tricks that people tried, I tried this the other day, as you see, I have 1 retake for each of these. But one of these things here is delete. If you delete the results, you do not get an extra retake. So that's a trick that I tried. All it does is deletes the results, so it's not up here on this board anymore. But if you go back to that same place, you only get to do the retake 1 more time. And if you don't pass that, then you're not going to be able to get the skills badge. But look, if you have the ability to get a skill badge in something that's relevant to you, and unfortunately also they don't have it on a lot of things. A lot of things they have it on are tools and technology kinds of things. And even industry knowledge is more computer-based, but can't hurt to have. And especially if you're good at these things and you study for it and get it up there, not a bad thing to have if you can get it. So I think I saw there was a question or two.
Okay. So the first question is LinkedIn's resume, with LinkedIn's resume builder, is a resume that they generate attractive to employers?
So they claim that it is actually, you always have the different thoughts and opinions. They claim it's optimized. And one of the things they actually have on, this is one thing that they have on the, what do you call it, site, on the advanced site is a premium account is it could give you a little bit of an assessment of whether you're hitting the targets. Whoops, career specialist, let's choose that, click apply. So you see here, this is a premium thing. So it's telling me that my keywords are hitting in the right places. They claim it is, but you can always talk, but again, you have to make changes because this is optimized for LinkedIn, not for this. I mean, I like having the, the LinkedIn and just it doesn't have the address, just has the location. So there are good things for it. And, but I think whatever comes on, you want to change it. The other problem is it saves it as a PDF, which is very hard to manipulate after you make it. So I would rather see them have the ability, because they own Microsoft Word, to send that down as a Word document and make the changes there. But again, it's not perfect, but I think it's better than what we've had in the past.
That's great. Good point too about they own Microsoft. Well, Microsoft owns them.
Yeah, they
so
own
why
it.
not,
It
right?
shouldn't be hard. Yeah, I mean, you own the darn thing. Or they own you, actually, is probably a better way to say it. All right, other questions about that?
The next question is just, how many years far back should you include when you have been at a job for 16 years?
So how many jobs do you include on your actual LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn profile?
Really, how
To
far
me,
should you go back?
yeah. So look, so you see on mine, to me, most people are, and on the resume, you don't want to include this, but on here, if somebody's looking all the way down here, they are very, very interested in me for something. And as long as they've had positive experiences, how does it hurt? If they're clicking show more and they can see that, again, 2 lifetimes ago, I was hauling furniture. I wish I still had the physical ability to haul heavy things like that. But if they see that, something, it can't hurt. I wouldn't have it on a resume again because it takes up valuable space. But if they're very interested in me, let them see it. Doesn't hurt me.
Great, thank you. And that's it for questions right now.
Okay, great. So I want to get into some engagement opportunities and strategies, because a couple of things you can actually do to engage people. And let's do some searches for something. So let's do visual arts. As you see, I've done this before, and this is under jobs. I want to change this to posts. This is going to show me posts that people have made where they use the term visual arts. The reason this is important is if people are posting these things and they're in my field, if I click on this, I have the ability to go in there and potentially engage with them. So let's assume this was of value. I'm not saying it is. I could read what he says and go in here and start typing in something to show him who I am and show my expertise. First thing you want to do, click the add button, which will allow you to scroll up here to tag his name. And that way that makes sure that he's going to see the fact that you actually commented on this post. But that's one thing to do. But I think even a better way, and this is what I teach in the advanced class, is to use hashtags to find these kinds of things. So as opposed to doing visual arts that way, if I click hashtag, you see it shows some search tools for hashtags. I start typing in visual arts. It'll take me to the hashtag of visual arts, hopefully. There we go. And this is something I can follow now. I can go in here and say, I want to follow visual arts. And that's going to change what I see in my regular feed on LinkedIn. Plus, it gives me the opportunity to see how many people are following it and give you some other valuable data about it. One warning, if you don't do hashtag searches often, a lot of times it's not going to show up. And what you're going to need to actually do is on the first post that you see, and by the way, you see this is more direct. It scrolls down as opposed to having you click on it separately. What you're going to have to actually do is click on the one here to take you to the same place or a different place, as the case may be. But you have to actually click on the actual hashtag that shows up in the post, because it doesn't always default to showing the actual hashtags. I think hashtags are very important because it allows you to see where your market is and to engage the people in your market. Just to show you where these are hosted. So you see my hashtags are over here. These are the 20 that I follow. And here's some important things about this. You're going to need to play around with the hashtags to get the ones that are of value. Now, I want to throw a question out to you guys because you have the ability to talk. Now, I post a lot about careers. Which one do you think is more valuable of these three? Careers, 22.5 million followers, career services, 4.1 thousand, or career development, 54,000. Which one do you think I should be using more? Anyone want to take a shot at it? If not, I'll give you my thoughts. The challenge with a thing like careers is when you're competing with 22 million other people, chances are your things are going to get lost in the shuffle. Now, career services is a much more direct, that feeds directly to my clients and the people that I'm looking to engage with. So I'm much more frequently going to be checking and using that as a hashtag. Now, it doesn't hurt to use the career hashtag as well, because that'll potentially show up for some people who are utilizing that. But I think you want to make sure that your hashtags are ones that are a little bit more directed to what you need in your field. That's going to take a little playing around with. And you'll see here that I definitely check this on a regular basis just to see what people are talking about in career services and engage my colleagues. And when I post something, and it should show up here somewhere probably. I click to recent because I posted something today. Normally I show up here. And it just shows you posts that people have made it on that topic. Again, you can engage people on those posts, but in addition to engaging them on those posts, you're able to utilize these hashtags when you're posting yourself. Does that make sense? So hashtags are better than just, let's try it if I just type in career services. Again, you see here under career services, I can go scroll straight down here and start commenting over here. I can go down and comment over here. Look what happens if I type in career services without the hashtag. And I choose, where is it here? Posts. See this? I have to actually click on a person's actual post to get to the post, which is not as easy to use. So I definitely think the hashtag use is the better way to go. Again, you want to play around to get it where it needs to go and start engaging people in the right way once you start engaging those people. Now, any questions about the use of hashtags and how to engage people with it?
We have a couple of other questions.
Sure.
So somebody asked, is it a good idea to learn the skills that the skill badges list? For example, I know Photoshop, but the assessment test asked me if I know more than what I already know.
So look, I think there's some value to it. It really depends on your profession, or the people who are looking to hire you are going to be interested in that or not. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if they are, that's something you want to add if you can. It can't hurt. I mean, take it once, and if you fail, don't take it again. But if you could add the badge, there's no reason not to.
Great, thank you. And then can you show an example how a student can find gaming companies and how to follow and engage alumni who work there?
Okay, so can someone give me a name? I'm not a gamer. I'm sorry to say. So you have to find the name. Can someone give me a name of a gaming company? Anybody?
Blizzard Entertainment.
Blizzard?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, Blizzard Entertainment.
Blizzard Entertainment. There we go.
Yeah.
That's their company page. And if I click on people here, I'll be able to see people. And I could do a search by location. So it looks like a lot of them are in Los Angeles, but I could add New York to this and then see those folks down over here, which is a great segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think
So
they may
put
just be
New York.
California.
Yeah, it might be. All right. But anyway, then you can see the folks down over here. There we go. And then you can engage with them. Remember I showed you that person earlier today? Let's see if we have her name. Should still be up here. Jennifer works at the Lincoln Center. So I really am interested, let's say, in engaging Jennifer, because she's an associate director of the chief of staff, important person there. And I really want to make sure that I engage her and make sure she notices me. Because if I just send her a message or I send her a connection request, which is probably the better way to do it, she has every reason to ignore it, because who am I? Why would I want to connect with her? The fact that you both went to SUNY Purchase is something, but it's not the best of things. So what I usually tell people to do is go down to her activity. That's down over here. See her activity. If I switch this to posts, I can see posts that she made recently. Now, she hasn't posted in 2 weeks, but some people do. And this is a great, great opportunity to engage people on things they're interested in. Tried somebody else. I'll show you this a little bit later with somebody else. But the idea is to find out what they're posting on and also check their contact information to see if they have a Twitter account. She doesn't, but it's great once you identify those right people to find ways to engage them. Because if you're just reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, will you hire me for a job, or I'm interested in an internship at Lincoln Center, very easy to say no. When you develop a relationship with somebody, then it's much, much easier for them to be willing to actually go in there and say something and be willing to help you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing I want to go to here is show. Yeah, go ahead.
There's one more question. Sorry, somebody just asked, how often should LinkedIn users post on their feed?
So posting, I usually advise 3 to 5 times a week, but here's, I was just talking to a client about this last night, and I just saw somebody post the other day, like, hey, do you like LinkedIn polls? Answer my poll. Like that's kind of a worthless thing. The idea is, are you adding value on a regular basis to the people who are going to be following it? If you're not, don't do it. So let's just show you some of the things that I've posted recently. And look, I think you can have a little bit of personality in here as well. So I'm going to go down to my own activity. And I have a couple things about presentations here that I'm giving. One of them will be for this session. I think it's the second one down. But I post every day. I don't think you have to post every day. But just to show you a couple things here, these are things I posted in groups. This is a niche thing. But there was one here I had a little bit here. Deep thoughts. So I like to include things like this on occasions to give people a little bit of a wider variety of a perspective of who I am, but always add value. If you're not adding value, don't just post to post. That's always a big mistake, to post just to post. And by the way, people always ask me, what happens if people start calling me the loser here and they're doing terrible things on this post? I can go in over here and change who can comment on it and say, nope, you guys can't comment anymore. So that's an important thing to know about your posts, but do it on a regular basis. As frequently as you can actually add value is how frequently I would actually do it. Does that make sense?
That's great.
All right.
Thank you.
Now, I want to move on to some of the changes to LinkedIn messaging, which are very, very exciting, because there are a couple of things we can do here. Now, this is something I did with Wendy. This is a very great, good teachable moment, because LinkedIn added all these funky GIFs or GIFs, as they call them, down here at the bottom, all sorts of things you could add here. And I was actually practicing for the session, and I accidentally clicked on, I can see if I can move this screen out of my way here. See if I can move. I just have the toolbar is in the way. There it is. So I actually clicked on the GIF button. I was trying to click up here, and I actually clicked on it, and I sent a picture of an angry dog to Wendy when I was practicing this, and there was no way to delete this. So, you know, if Wendy wasn't a friend of mine and we haven't worked together a number of times, she'd be like, what is wrong with this LinkedIn guy? He sent me a picture of an ugly dog, and I'd have to come up there and apologize. So I usually tell people to stay away from the GIFs or the GIFs when it comes to these things, because generally they're not professional. It's not the kind of thing you would send in a professional email, so it doesn't belong there. And you see here, I said, oops, why did you test it? Now, within 1 hour now, you can actually test things and you actually change them. So you see here, I could go over here. It looks like the hour just expired. I'm going to do test one more time here, and you'll see it as soon as I enter it. Let's move this out of the way one more time. So now I should be able to go in over here and edit or delete that, but you only have 1 hour to do that. So you can go edit or delete it at that point. If you wait more than an hour, then it's up there and there's no way to get rid of it. So you want to be careful what you're posting, keep it professional. Do not take it and just accidentally click the GIFs or GIFs, because that is something that is very damaging. Now, potentially very damaging. Another great thing they added here is, people always ask me, let's say I finally engaged Jennifer that we talked about before, and I posted on her stuff about Lincoln Center, and we're having conversations and we're talking to each other here. And I say, you know something, I need to take this to the next level. I want to send her an invitation to meet with me via Zoom. You can actually do that directly on your profile in the messaging. Now, just to show you here, Wendy is currently logged in. That little green thing over here shows me that she's currently logged into LinkedIn and much more likely to be ready to respond to any kind of request that I put in or any kind of message. Let me scroll down here a little bit, see if I can see anybody here. Cynthia, this one with the green with a little circle in it, means she's on mobile. So chances are she's 11 minutes ago, so she's not actually currently there. So it might be a little bit less effective if I try to reach out to her. But look what I can do right here now when I go back down over here and I say, you know what, I want to set up a Zoom with Wendy to talk to her about that recommendation she's going to write for me. This little button right over here. And you have the opportunity to choose to set up your Zoom. It doesn't have to be Zoom. You could choose Microsoft Teams or Blue Jeans. I have Zoom set up already with my email account, and I could schedule a meeting for later saying, okay, Wendy, can we meet? Let's say I'm just going to choose a random time here, set this up and create, and that's going to pop it in there. And then potentially I would personalize this. Hey, Wendy, I want to talk to you about my recommendation request. Let's meet at this time. The other thing you can do, and I only advise doing this, is when you're in a conversation with somebody that's going back and forth, you can actually create what's called an instant meeting. You're saying, you know what, Wendy and I, we're talking so long, let's just hop on a Zoom right now. and that will send that, and I can click this, and that Zoom meeting would start immediately with her, and that'll give me the opportunity to talk to her about what I want to talk to her about. Again, I wouldn't do this just to start because everyone's going to ignore it. Once you start building a relationship with people, it allows you to take it to the next level much, much more easily than ever before. Okay, any questions?
Yep, we have a couple in the chat.
Great.
So one is, right, I know, Wendy, you answered it too. But in your opinion, do companies in the entertainment industry use LinkedIn a lot? Is LinkedIn a good place to find jobs in music, film, and gaming industries?
So I think, look, obviously a lot of people in the music industry are using other things like Instagram and TikTok and other places, but there is value because there are people on here. You know, and one of the fundamental principles in social media is you want to be where your target is. So if they're also on Instagram and they're on TikTok, you want to be there as well. But it doesn't hurt to have that profile, because I will say this: no matter what profession they're in, when it doesn't come to engaging them, when they're Googling your name, you want your LinkedIn profile to show up professionally. And that's great to have just for those purposes. Plus, whoever you're able to really connect to is an added value. So I think there is value to that. So you definitely want to have a LinkedIn profile, but don't limit it just to LinkedIn. You need a multimodal approach when it comes to social media. Be where your people are.
That's great. Thank you. And then there's a question. Would you recommend making a LinkedIn account with a new email or with an email you already use with your other social media accounts?
So I would use the same one as long as it's a professional email. I mean, your email should be first name, last name, and Gmail, preferably if you can get it, or potentially your college email account as well. So if you can definitely get that, I would try to utilize that. There's no reason to set up a separate one. In the actual privacy and settings, you can set up messages that it sends or doesn't send to you, so you don't have to get overwhelmed with those kinds of things. So you can actually set it up the way that you like. Other questions?
And that's, yeah, those are the questions that were in the chat right now.
Okay, great. Because I want to show you events, which is another thing which LinkedIn recently announced and recently implemented about a year and a half ago. It's not quite where it needs to be yet, but there's definitely value to it. So let's say if I go to visual arts here and set of jobs, I'm going to choose, where is it here? Oh, I have in New York City, that's why. Let's get rid of that. Now let's try it. And it froze. Okay, so we should have, let's still go to the jobs. Events, there it is. This is going to show me events that people have. Most of these are online that match those search criteria that I used. This could potentially be a very powerful way for reaching out to people. So for example, let's assume I wanted to go to this one. It says 367 attendees. If I click on this, because it's a public event, all I need to do is click attend event, and I'm going to be on the dashboard of the people who are attending that event. Let me show you one that I've actually done before, that I've been part of, just to show you what it actually looks like and what you're able to do with it. So I go down here, I'm not actually coming to this event, but this is a New York Society of Human Resource Manager event that's coming up. And look what it does here. I have the ability to invite my own connections and share this, but look what I can do. I can chat with people who are coming to the event. So I click on chat here, there's one chat, and my computer is not working at this moment, but for whatever reason, there it goes. This is the chat of the people who are attending the event, which can be a very powerful way to build relationships with those folks. That's number one. Number two, you can see the attendees. So you can see based on your area, 8 people are connections of mine. This is my industry. I can see those folks and potentially engage with them. And 96 people from New York and 149 attendees. Now, what I think is a better idea is to actually click on this list of people who are attending, because this is going to take you into a searchable list. And here we can actually do things by current company and other filters to make it much, much more powerful. Now look at this. This is, I think, is the most important part. And one of the reasons it's very important to start engaging in more events is, see, Joanne is not a connection of mine. If I click a message here, I can message her because we're part of the same event. Let me go to her profile. If I go to her profile and click message, I need to pay for an email to do this. It's not free. But because we're part of the same event, I have the ability to message her, and that can give me the opportunity to build that relationship without having to pay for an email. You know, another thing like we talked about before over here is I probably want to go down and see what she's posted on Earth Day stuff. So I can go down over here, see her posts, and start engaging her about Earth Day, and then take that to messaging or whatever else it happens to be. But that's a very powerful way to include and start messaging and reaching out to other people who you don't have access to normally. So I do think it's valuable to set up or to take part of events. One of the challenges with it, I showed you before, visual arts, is it doesn't really give you search capabilities. So it's not where it needs to be yet. Because what I like to be able to do is when I go to visual arts and I go to events and it says all filters. Well, let me find something. It doesn't give you any all filters. So you have to look through this more carefully or see people who are posting about it. I like to see them have that filters, location, more context, or whatever it happens to be, in order to be able to make sure that I'm targeting this more directly. But I think it's important to try to at least find events in your field and join them for the purposes of chatting and for the purposes potentially of finding the people who are the industry leaders. And in addition to that, engaging people who are industry leaders. Another thing I think you can do here for sure is if you're having a local event on campus and you're inviting, let's say, an alum or something like that, set up your own event. If you set up your own event, then you have the chat feature and people can actually reach out to that alum if you want them to and engage with him or her in advance of the event. One thing I would advise you to do is not to make it a public event. So if you're creating an event, let's go over here. One of the choices you have is whether to make it a public event or a private event. And there's some other things in here with events. And you can't change that once you actually set it. Event settings can't be changed. So you can actually choose your speaker and you need to choose public event or private event. If you choose private event, you can actually send it just to the people in your club and to that particular alum, and you won't get people like me clicking onto it just to be able to get the networking opportunities when it comes to those things. Does that make sense?
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So, and then we have another question, but so then are you inviting for the private event, are you inviting through LinkedIn or you get a link that you could share to invite?
So so there's a share button that you can share to people that'll give them permission, and you'll have to approve them at that point to come into the meeting. So it's better that way, because otherwise you just random people aren't going to join. Look, on the other hand, it's like, it's kind of bad, kind of good, because chances are they won't find it. But if they do find it, they can definitely engage with it in a way that you don't want them to. So usually for local events like that, you probably want to make it private just to keep it to your students. But it gives them the opportunity to engage the speaker, which is important. And if you want to make it public, it doesn't hurt. But you can't change that after you set it. You can't say, I want a private meeting. Oh, I'm going to make it public now. You'd have to erase the meeting entirely at that point.
Great, thank you. There is one question in the chat. Do you want me to ask it?
Please.
So I'm a film studies major at Purchase. I search other filmmakers because I want to connect with them, but LinkedIn kept telling me they are off limits to me. Would you have any recommendations for someone who is the beginning stages of building their LinkedIn when it comes to connecting with others on LinkedIn?
So I think what you mean by off limits means that they're a third degree connection, and that's why they weren't allowing you to actually connect with them. I don't have all that many third degree connections. Let me go into the event search here. And we're going to do a people search as soon as this goes through. And I'm going to set the filter to third degree and see if anybody shows up. Third degree and show results. And I think if I'm understanding the question, it's not showing up. I don't have that many third degrees at this point. But the problem is if you have a third degree, if you click on their profile, the connect button, or this is follow because he has more than enough followers, but the connect button doesn't show up there. So what you need to do for the third person, if you're going to connect with them, this shows up for second degree, you need to click the more button, which will give you the opportunity to connect with them. But again, I think the better way than just sending that connection request and saying, hey, would you like to connect with me, whatever, is to find out what they're posting about, find out what they're passionate about, engage them first, and then go to the connection. But as you start building your connections out, and I have a lot of connections, so I don't have that many third degrees, so I don't have to worry about that particular problem. The way around it really is to click the more button and send connection requests. But again, my advice is to find a way to engage that person first. No matter what you do, always, always, always personalize the invitation request. Because if you don't, it's just a generic thing, and it really is much less likely to be accepted. Plus, if you actually personalize it, the message you put in actually becomes part of your messaging, and you have that there as a record, so you can actually go back to it at another time. Other questions? That was my basic presentation.
Someone just had followed up saying that, right, I searched for one and I couldn't message them unless I was connected with them. And right, that's true. So if you're not, the way, if you don't have the premium account, to connect, to message someone would be through that connection, right?
So would be the best way to do it, or the better way to do it is to actually find, again, where they posted and make those comments. So let's assuming I want to make comment. This is somebody I'm targeting because I found him or her somewhere, and then tagging them, even though I'm not connected with them. Lets me tag them and write a personalized message about whatever I want. And that's something I can build a relationship from eventually. So that's what I advise, as opposed to sending this out to people who are usually people who are in positions of power are a little bit more hesitant to accept things. So it's a better way to engage people, yes, but don't pay for the email. Send them a connection request, and if it's a third degree, click the more button, and it'll allow you to do that as well. But always personalize it. Let them know that you're a student in SUNY purchase and you want to connect with them maybe for whatever reason, and give the description in there. Other questions? That was pretty much what I had to present. So any other questions there are, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, so this is really the time. So, you know, we had this time going until 2:30 so that we can have your questions. I think Wendy was just piggybacking off of that, saying, so I guess if the person you're trying to connect with to see where they work, if they're alumni at that organization, maybe try that way first.
So you could definitely do right. You could definitely look at the SUNY purchase page, for example. If you wanted, if I'm understanding the question, so SUNY has their page, and there's an alumni section on this where you could actually look, see alumni, here we go. And this gives you a list searchable of alumni. And I didn't test this before, but let me just do, put film in here. I think I'll probably get something on this hit. Okay, there we go. And then you could find out, you know, where they live in New York and potentially engage with them and put more search terms. This is searchable. So you put more information in here and then potentially find your way of engaging with these people. Here's somebody I'm not connected to. It doesn't even show them, like a third degree, probably more. If not showing them, but again, better than just sitting the connect button is actually clicking on their profile. Well, let's actually try this. Let's see here, because they did change this recently. Let's say I want to engage with this person. If you click on their profile, this gives me the opportunity to send a personalized message when I connect, add note. And occasionally, it doesn't always happen, but if I go back this way and I click connect, sometimes it sends it automatically. Let's see if it does. Now it's allowing me to add a personalized note, but you got to watch out for that because a lot of times that does happen. So you definitely want to be careful about that and make sure to send them the personalized connection request.
So what's the safest way to avoid accidentally sending it immediately?
To always click on the person's profile. I've seen it in searches. Always click on the profile, make sure you're on the person's profile, then click the connect button. That will always give you the opportunity to add a note.
Thank you.
Con, could you talk a little bit about if a student, just the manner in which they make those connections and what they say when they go to connect? They shouldn't just press connect, but say something.
Yeah, exactly. You want to say something of value and why you want to connect with people. So let me show you actually something I use in my third course on this is, where do your old connection requests go? So they go here to send invitations. So you see here, here's somebody who viewed my profile today. This is the message that I sent him. And that way he knows that I saw that he saw my profile and I'm engaging with him. If you scroll down here, you'll see every single one of these has something. So this is somebody whose presentation that I went to. So I have that down in from there. Yeah, always personalize it and make sure that the people know why it is you want to connect with them. And one of the questions I get also frequently is, well, the person is ghosting me. Like, here's somebody, yes, he hasn't responded in 3 months. What if I want to send them another one? If you click withdraw, you can resend a connection request 3 weeks later. But you have to wait 3 weeks, and just write that down because you're going to forget it. But always personalize it. And when you do personalize it, those connection requests are going to show up in your messaging. So people will be able to see what was in the connection request. Here, I think she sent me one yesterday. This is what she sent me. So that was actually the connection request message she sent me that I accepted. Now it sits forever in my messaging. Other questions? Anything about LinkedIn?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, and you're welcome to unmute yourself if you prefer that too.
Love to hear your voices. Is this somebody here?
Well, I do have like, I guess perhaps like a small kind of question. I'm sorry if you can hear the construction.
No, not a problem. Please, how
Um,
can I help you?
yeah, I guess like the one thing that I'm a little, I guess you can say worried about is like my profile picture.
Hmm.
Because like, I don't know, I read so much about like, but that's like dating, but this is like a professional.
Yeah,
But
I
like,
get this. I get this. I work with a population of Jewish Orthodox women on my campus who are very, very hesitant to put up their pictures because it's used in sort of the dating world. Look, nowadays, pretty much pictures are ubiquitous for most people, so it's hard to hide from it.
mm,
And the idea is to put up a professional picture that shows you professionally. Now, I've
mm,
seen some people that will put a picture because they were dressed nice for a wedding, so they put a picture where they're part of a group and they just cut out and you have like a disembodied fingers hanging over the person's shoulder. That's the kind of stuff you want to stay away from. So even if you take wearing the clothes you would wear in the normal kind of session you would go to a networking event and you take it against a white background, that serves that purpose. So I think you want to do that, but also the more professional you can get, the better. There are people who charge for this. Obviously, we actually had at our career fair before COVID, we actually had a professional person come in and take photos for all the students, which I think is a great thing to have because they're able to have professional photos that way. So I definitely think it's important to have because people respond to your profile much more frequently and better when you have a profile photo.
mhm.
I have to follow up on that. Somebody was asking that, they were saying, I see quite a few people without profile pictures. Given the times that we are living in, are there better options for when choosing to post a picture? So Deborah, I don't know if you meant in lieu of the photograph of like the profile picture or
Yeah,
for the profile picture?
it's a great question. So the challenge is that the LinkedIn user agreement only allows you to use your likeness. So you can't put, I see people all the time who will put a picture of their company logo over here. You're actually not allowed to do that by LinkedIn's policies. Now, I have seen some people put in caricatures or avatars that are their actual likeness. They feel more comfortable with that. I think it's a little bit less professional, but if that makes you feel more comfortable, you definitely can do that, but you cannot use a logo
Okay.
by LinkedIn's policy. Now, chances are they're not going to do anything about it, but they definitely could.
That's a
Um,
good point. Oh, so sorry.
no, I mean, something that like I think would be helpful since we're all here. Like, what I do sometimes is well, maybe it's just because I have white walls, so I'm a little bit like luckier than someone who doesn't. But I usually have my phone on a tripod and set it on a timer.
Look, even doing it this way, if you set up the background in an office or a room where you have a, oops, I hit the wrong button there. I meant to use camera. And this is going to put me back on screen here. And if I were able to move this in a way where I don't have all this garbage in the background and set myself back a little bit more and take it, maybe on an angle, that could work. That could work. If you're dressed appropriately, you don't have all this other stuff that you really shouldn't have in a profile photo. And potentially you could also take it and you can edit it. So if I took this photo, there are editing abilities on these things that you can cut out. Just want to make sure it looks professional. Just see if I can see the edit. There we go. So I could drag, move, zoom, so I can make it a little bit better than what actually showed up in that other photo. That's a little scary. Show up on that other photo. So crop. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do here to adjust it to make it better. And I think it's important to have that photo. Look, people want to relate to people. People see you on social media. They're much more likely to want to engage with you than if they do not see you at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
And then there was just a question, which I think you had answered with kind of focusing towards the industry, but would collared or button down shirts work in place of a full suit for the profile picture?
If that's what you would wear, if the head of the company was coming at their networking event, 100%. If you're going to Google and you wear a suit, you're probably, if you're looking to work at Google, that's not a good idea, right? And there could be a lot of the creative arts places where it wouldn't be a good idea as well. You want to wear what you would wear if top level senior people, C-suite people will be showing up to your networking event and what they would expect you to be wearing. The challenge is people want to associate with people who are like them. So if you're wearing too much, you're overdressed for that profession, that could be a flag. Oh, this person doesn't belong here because she's not wearing the kind of clothes that we wear. So you want to be careful with that. And again, more conservative places, definitely you want to do the more professional. Other places, yeah, definitely be open with that. But try to think about what you want somebody in the C-suite to see you at a networking event.
And Chaim, I just have a question since we have a few minutes. Just
Sure.
with the LinkedIn, with the job search, if there's any new features or anything that we should particularly be highlighting for students.
So yeah, I definitely think the important thing here is to make sure that you turn cold leads into warm leads and to find those jobs that you're interested in and find people that you're connected to. There are 5 alumni work here. And let's change this to New York if we can. Let's get the one that we had before and find the people and try to find a way to engage the people who are there. So you see here, I have 2 connections that work here. These are the people I want to reach out to potentially ask them if they could actually make a connection for me. And if I don't know them, because I'm just not connected to them, click on their profiles and start looking at what they've posted and start building those relationships. That can make a cold lead into a warm lead. Doesn't look like she's shared much recently, but that's the general idea. Plus, it doesn't show up every time here. Let's see if it shows up on this one. This will be luck of the draw, because sometimes it actually shows you the distance for your commute. And the reason I think that's important, there we go. It does show up here. So it actually shows me if I leave, I'm not leaving at 3 a.m. Let's say I'm leaving my house at 7:30 a.m. to get to work, and this is how long it takes by car. I don't know why it suddenly made this not available for public transportation, but the point here is if this is a long time, if you're putting in your address and the commute is 3 hours, potentially I could see recruiters saying, I don't want somebody who's going to have to recruit, come that long because they're not going to want to stay with us. So it's something to check to make sure that you're close and that you don't potentially remove yourself from contention because of how far away you are.
That's interesting. So if let's say we have a student or alum who's applying for jobs, but they're really flexible in kind of moving to where that job is, that's something they should be saying somewhere in their profile.
Put that address right in here. Yeah, or you can put it in your profile. It's usually like resumes. If you're applying for a job in Purchase as opposed to New York, or you're applying for a job in my hometown of Chicago, I'd probably use a local address because they'll definitely will be flagged in a better way by recruiters. Because I just had the same question. I had another client was talking to me about putting information down, and I told her to put down that she lives in New York, even though she lives in Baltimore, and she was concerned. Well, how quickly can I move there? Well, the point is, I mean, if they have a job opportunity, you let them know that you're applying for the summer and you'll be ready to relocate soon. But yeah, I would definitely try to keep it and focus on where you're searching.
The other thing, I just wanted to jump in because there seems to be a recommendations through HR folks and people in the career coaching field that, the removal of your actual address on your resume or in other places like LinkedIn is preferred just for protection for, trollers or identity theft people and so on. What's your take on that, and how, would you just suggest, Brooklyn or Flatbush, Brooklyn, New York, just so you have a better idea that's
So you actually see, so this, I took this back into the resume builder. You see here, it doesn't have my address and doesn't even have my city because I choose New York City, which is more, I'm definitely open to that. You don't want people showing up at your house, obviously, and doing those things. And most people don't care. Plus, there's been studies done. I'm not really a full expert on this, but if you put certain neighborhoods, potentially there can be discrimination based on socioeconomic status and what people assume about particular neighborhoods. So major metropolitan areas tend to be a little bit better. And yeah, you see here on the one that LinkedIn uses as its example in the resume, it just uses the major metropolitan area.
Okay.
And then we have, sorry.
Oh, Jess, well, I just wanted to go back to one of the questions and statements. We are having a LinkedIn headshot day on the 28th.
Cool.
And an alum asked if they are eligible. I believe they are, but we just have to make sure that they can come to campus. I don't know what we put in place for, because everyone else has pre-screening when they come to campus. Do you want to speak about that?
Julia, do you want to?
Yeah, so I can talk briefly about that. So for the event itself, I'm not 100% sure about the screening and how that works. They might be able to just go to the website and be able to fill out one with, I'm sure it would be their purchase email, but I did put on the form for them to check off if they're alum, if they're senior or junior. That way we can, when I reach out and put everything, I at least am aware of that. But for the most part, daily screening, I'm not 100% sure. I think you can find it on the website and fill it out, but that'll be something we'll look into.
And there are still slots left?
I haven't checked recently, but I know spots were filling up, but they can sign up and then it's first come, first serve. So, I mean, like whoever signed up first will have that priority, but I'll be putting the list together and keep you posted. So
That's great. Thank you. And Wendy
Thank
put the link in the chat. So as Julia was saying, that link is all our events. You'll see the LinkedIn photo event, and then you'll see that form that Julia is talking about. And if you complete that, then she'll be in touch with you. There is one more question in the chat.
Yes.
Which is, in the featured section of LinkedIn, can we upload a photo that has a hyperlink attached to it?
No, it won't work. You actually have the actual link in the preview that comes with it. As far as I know, it doesn't work because just to show you what that looks like, because I have actually my resume up over here, and you'll see I uploaded it for one of them, and I didn't check this before because I wasn't planning on talking about this. One of them I uploaded as a document, and one of them I uploaded as an actual. So that's the wrong one, of course. This one I uploaded as a document. If I can get to click on it. And you'll see here, it takes me to this page and that's not clickable. So my thought is it would not be clickable, and you just want to set up the link and have the preview come that way if you can.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Right. So somebody, right, because they were just commenting that my portfolio link for some reason didn't come.
Yes,
with the
it won't be clickable, but if you actually link the portfolio with a preview, that might work. But the problem is you can't control what the preview is.
Okay, so I think that may be the issue.
That might be the issue.
Marina,
Yeah.
that right. It's not really. It's kind of what LinkedIn is deciding to pull in as the preview, or what's being offered, right, from the site.
Right. Probably from the site. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a question that's, I guess, semi-related to LinkedIn, but more like professional.
Okay.
So you showed us in the messaging section of LinkedIn, we are able to send Zoom links. Do you have any advice for Zoom backgrounds if we are networking or interviewing? That's something that I struggled with.
Yeah, it's a big issue.
Unfortunately, because of COVID, not everyone has an office space. So I guess what's a good professional background to use?
Look, I think anything that, bookcases, it works well, because I've had this with students. I've worked with students a number of times over COVID from home, and they'll have the bed is nicely made, but that's not what you want to have in the background when you're talking to a professional. So if you can get any kind of background, it can even be the logo potentially of your school, but there's some kind of background like a bookcase or something like that looks more professional. I think that's a much better idea.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Any other questions? I want to show you one last interesting thing here about how to show your personality on LinkedIn. So you see here, I posted that I'm giving my LinkedIn webinar, and here's somebody who engages with me often, and he knows that after I give a webinar, my next stop is to go to Dunkin' Donuts to get a frozen hot chocolate. So he was asking me if the Dunkin' Donuts is on standby, which it is actually as soon as I'm done. So you can actually show a little bit of your personality, and people understand your personality and engage with that personality when you put it and you're consistent about it. So I think that's a cute little thing to show.
That's great. So
I'll have to remember that next time you come to campus. Huh?
We can have it ready.
We'll have that or ice cream. Yeah, but there's no ice cream
Yes.
store right around my
Next
mine.
year, next year.
I want to give you. I have some Chunky Monkey in the freezer for myself after my next one on Friday. Yeah, so we see Dunkin' Donuts or Chunky.
Guilty
Chunky
pleasure. Guilty pleasure.
Exactly, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was
Thank
really
you
a pleasure.
so much, Chaim.
Chaim, thank you so much. We appreciate it so much. For everyone here, this was recorded. We should have it up on YouTube in the next couple of days. So if you came in late, or if you just weren't able to get all the tips down and you want to watch it again. And Chaim, thank you again so much.
My pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I think it's my 5th or 6th time here, and it's a pleasure every time. Great questions from the students, great questions from the staff and faculty.